Welcome to Cameron House Marina. I'm Ruben from Marine Sales Scotland. This is a 2015 model year Botnia Targa 27.1 powered by twin Volvo D3 220 horsepower diesel engines. She actually sold within her first day on the market, but we just couldn't resist taking you through this cult classic go anywhere specialist machine. Consistent performance in the roughest of sea states are exactly what Botnia provide with the Targa 27. Ministry of Defence and the Met Police have these in their arsenal. Very versatile as a platform. As you can see, the wheelhouse is bang on central, so that means you have excellent full walk round capability, both starboard and port side. High gunnels, wide channels allowing you to get up to the front, so if you're the police and you need to pull people out of the water, you can quickly get round the boat. Likewise, if you're the Ministry of Defence and you need to keep a line of sight, the crew need to keep a line of sight on a target vessel, you can get round the wheelhouse pretty quickly. You also have the flybridge up top as well, giving you an excellent vantage point. Now, as a platform, it's very much orientated around offshore cruising. Now, Botnia probably know as well that, for example, some people will run over ropes, run over lobster pots. Well, you have an access hatch here that allows you to get to both drive legs, and if you raise them, you can then cut ropes off the prop if you are misfortunate or unfortunate enough to do so. Davits at the transom here, and then the arms for the davits literally clip on and are hidden to keep the lines of the boat nice and sexy. We have our reboarding ladder off to the starboard side, and then let's take a look in. We'll move up forward. Now, as you can see, we've got the black spray rail that does an excellent job of keeping your splash away from the wheelhouse while you're underway. Up at the bow, we have a big U-shape. Now, there's a table that, just for purposes of the video, we've set out so you can see if you're sitting here, you wanted to dine al fresco, you can dine at the front, you can also dine at the back, you can dine the wheelhouse, whatever you want to do. And then there's big storage lockers under the slightly raised platform here, all itemised specifically for different pieces of kit. There is a little bit more storage underneath there. Also, your waste tank and some of the water pumps are in there. And then likewise, storage on that side, storage here. And up at the bow, an electric anchor winch with anchor and chain. And then a really wide platform, beamy platform, so someone can actually get up here. You can physically stand, there's lots of space. And you've got grab rails on either side for stability. But let's just take a look back at the boat. Wow. It's a real proper piece of kit, this. The table will remove, and I'd say most people in work settings or functional settings would have that stowed away in there. It just gives you better walk around access and means you can get around the decks quicker. Let's take a look at the flybridge in just a minute. Both of these seats here will actually collapse away because you need to collapse them if you want to open the engine bay so that both of the hatches can sit flush. But with those seats there, table drops into this aperture here, and then that means you can dine aft facing depending on which way the sun is shining. Port side, we have a double passenger seat. Out of respect for the new owner, we have kept the cushions downstairs in the aft cabin as it's slightly wet today. Single helm, and then the driver has a nice view out, but what a great vantage point this is from up here. And bear in mind, this is a 27-foot boat with a flybridge, and we are just in line height wise with a Sea Line F34, despite the fact this is 7 feet smaller. Not much up here electronics wise. That is to keep the centre of gravity and the weight low, but we do have our twin throttle, steering wheel, and then trim tabs, and then your primitive information, so your rev counter, your tachometer, and then you've also got your Volvo EVC, so you can flick through and see your temperatures and your pressures and such. Radar arch, all of this will collapse. It also acts as a grab rail when you're coming down. Radar scanner, and then your pillar, which again is all foldable, so if you do want to take this across to, for example, Holland, maybe you want to go through some of the canals, even in Northern Ireland, I know the Shannon system, it will collapse to give you maximum air draft. So whilst the crew outside are running around recovering people from the water, they're being beaten by the weather, while you're doing 180-degree turns at 40 knots, in here is a complete different picture, one of total and absolute comfort and luxury. It's got a real rustic feel, really charming thanks to all of the joinery up here, the fixtures and fittings. Everything is exactly the way it was meant to be. You've got things like your locks on all the doors here, just your simple catches to stop anything from rattling, shaking whilst underway. High gloss steering wheel, that's a real nice feature in contrast with the matte effect joinery. But you've got channel crossing capability with this boat, it's simple. And then you've got that extension to maybe stay for a weekend, for a few nights. That starts here. You've got a diesel cooking system, Wallace system that runs off the main diesel tank, hot and cold water, stainless steel sink, and there, look at the condition of it. It's all absolutely fantastic. Underneath here is the control for the cooker. If we then pop that down again, storage underneath in all these lockers and cabinets here, and then we've got a footrest that just pulls out, gives the navigator somewhere to put their feet, fold it back in again, and that's it, out of the way. If we lift this up, a bit like a spaceship on hydraulic rams, it all lifts up and opens. You can see recessed down into the well is our heads compartment. So a pump plus sea toilet with the waste tank, separate shower faucet there, and then toiletry holder, storage underneath here as well, and then hot and cold water with an enamel sink with a stainless steel tap. There's an Everspacker heating unit fitted to the boat, and some of the warm air comes out of that vent there to aerate this. Now, it is a wet head. The drain is just underneath the teak grate there, but there is no need for a curtain to seal this area off because it is so well recessed down into the well. Again, all about keeping that centre of gravity on the boat very, very low. If we come onto the helm position, we have our features such as our stereo system, controls for the galley pump, so the freshwater pump, the septic pump, Raymarine VHF with DSC, and then we've got our control for the spotlight, so that's just manual and you just orientate it whichever way you want, just like that by hand. Raymarine touchscreen plotter, so it's got a chart it's got a chart in it, fish finder, radar as well. Volvo EVC here, defrosters just up underneath the windscreen, and then our headlights, horn, and then we have autopilot and also our bow thruster, wiper controls, and then electric winch too. Side doors on both port and starboard for your navigator and also your captain, so you can probably handle this single-handedly should you want to. What we'll do is we will get the table down and show you what this looks like if you have guests on board. The wood is consistent with that on the ceiling, which means it's seamless and it blends in very well when it's up there. The captain can use the split folding option to then give himself or herself more space to get in and under at the fridge just underneath the console here. The table will swivel, it will rotate, and then it will also move up and down height-wise depending on how big or how small your guests are. Now we lift up the central reservation of the aft L shape. That then ties onto a hook, that's it permanently fixed, and that gives us unencumbered access down into the aft cabin. Big double on the port side, single on the starboard. We have a sleeping tender just occupying that right now. Above we have our Everspacker diesel heating control, shelf here, and then some storage and also another shelf. And notice how the wood is consistent with the theme all the way throughout the entire boat. Heating vent, another shelf, and then for whatever reason the starboard single berth is slightly longer in length than the port side. I'm not 100% sure why, if it's maybe to incorporate the shape of the fuel tank, which we'll come on to in just a minute. The beds have never ever been slept on before. And then one of the reasons why myself and the service manager think that it's quite well insulated noise-wise when you're up driving is because the engines live under here. So you have the engine bay and then you have all this space for the sound to travel, especially when this is set up. The sound has to travel all the way up here and it's very much behind you, especially while you're sort of charging along 39, 40 knots, which this boat is perfectly capable of. And that means that you just hear so little because the engine noise has so far to travel. It's a very particular experience being out in the water in one of these, something that I've never really experienced before. Its refinement, its ride quality is just second to none. And anyone who has one of these will be able to single-handedly justify the hefty price tag that comes with them. The sold sticker on the back of it, the best sticker you'll ever see on the boat. Let's take a look at the engines. Twin Volvo Penta D3 220s, 120 hours run, all of it in fresh water. An engineer's fantasy in here. Look at all the space down there to access your filters and the belts and such. I've always found these Botnia Targas to have a bit of a cult following, a bit like the diesel powered Arvors. There aren't really an awful lot of them around. People just tend to love them religiously. This is a fantastic example. She's going down to the south coast, so the best of luck to the new owner. An excellent gentleman, we wish him all the best aboard and many happy days out in the water. I'm Ruben from Marine Sales Scotland, where fun in the water begins.